Welcome to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast, where we focus on discussing topics to help you burn fat, optimize health, and improve performance in life and sports. Transform the whole you from the inside out with the holistic method. Let's dive in. Here's your host, Debbie Potts.
Hey, it's Debbie, and before we get started on our guest today, I want to share with you a new sleep supplement that I've been experimenting with my evening stack to help optimize my sleep, and it's by one of my favorite companies that I partner with, Kion. Kion has a new sleep supplement that I have been stacking with my magnesium from BioOptimizers and with Kion aminos. And test and not guess is always my saying. And I've been using my Aura ring to track my sleep score to see if what I'm taking at nighttime helps improve my deep sleep REM, readiness, and HRV score the next day, as well as staying asleep through the night because I've been tending to toss and turn a little bit more. So this is really important to work on sleep. We want to recover, repair, and restorative sleep is really important for us to get in during the night so we feel our best self for the next day. So the new sleep supplement from Kion targets these neurotransmitter GABA and serotonin, and they help us fall asleep faster, stay asleep, get better quality sleep so we wake up feeling refreshed. The result is based on 40 years of research that Kion has gone through on sleep. And they created this high quality raw ingredient supplement that is really making amazing results for different people's sleep. So if you want to try it out, head to Kion. You can use our code to save 20%. Low Carb Athlete is our code. And you can work on adding in Kion aminos to help your sleep as well. And maybe check out the BioOptimizers sleep stack that I've been using. They're magnesium with the Kion aminos and Kion sleep. So let me know if your sleep is improving with a little tryptophan, L-theanine, and a little GABA support. So take 3 capsules before bed, about 30 minutes, and see how your sleep hygiene routine is going, what you're doing before bed, if you're getting that time to unwind and creating a dark room, a cold room, getting off those blue light devices before bed, stop eating 3 hours before bed, and really taking time to even do some stretching, doing some gratitude, maybe some journaling and unwinding, and maybe even a little bit of a shower before bed or an Epsom salt bath. So let's work on prioritizing our sleep and test out the new supplement from Kion Sleep to go with your sleep hygiene habits. It's also how you start the day in the morning as well as how you end the day to optimize that sleep wake cycle. So get up in the morning and see that sunrise and work on your winding down routine at night to go with this supplement. Let me know how it works for you. Use Low Carb Athlete to save on your Kion products. Hey there, it's Debbie, and I have my friend Ingrid Hillhouse on my podcast today. We met last year, as I'll talk about when we start the show, at Lava Man Triathlon that I help with in Kona on the Big Island, and really find Ingrid very fascinating. She's got 45 years of experience, and she's only 50 years old. And I asked her about that. She's just a big dreamer. She started at 5 years old, starting to decide what she wanted to do in life and always follows her goals. She's very ambitious. She said she, was 5 years old. She wanted to be a teacher. Now she's a health coach, and she wanted to be a singer and an actress, and that she wanted to become president and a VP of a company. So she just always big dreamer and knows how to get to those dreams and make them reality. She started dreaming about retiring at a young age and retired at 45 and moved to Hawaii. And she's just 43 years old. So she's dreamed of an Ultraman World Championship, and she's done many of them. She dreamed of running 100 miles, and she's done that. She is a big dreamer, and she knows how to follow her dreams. So she's quite ambitious and organized and disciplined obviously, and goal driven. So what about Ingrid? Let's check her background out. Pretty crazy. She's an ultra endurance athlete, health coach, and passionate about helping others find freedom and balance in their journey to optimal health. She's completed not 3, but 13 Ironman distance triathlons, 6 Ultraman distance triathlons, the Rocky Racoon 100-mile run, trail run. She's done many other ultra endurance events. She is a big dreamer, as I said, and experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows racing and training through her journey. She has studied and experimented with many different dietary theories and fueling strategies over the past 15 years after facing and overcoming her own health challenges that she will share with us today, and struggle with burnout caused by unhealthy relationships with their professional career, with stress, with chronic exercise, and ultra-processed sugary foods. Ingrid's on a mission to help other people understand the toxicity and addictive nature of sugar and flour in our daily diet, as well as to help individuals shift their lifestyle habits through education and awareness to achieve their dream health goals. Welcome to our podcast, Ingrid. Let's bring her on the show. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, and her website, ultrahealthhouse.com. So Ingrid is coming on. Bring on that story. Hey guys, it's Debbie, and I have my new friend Ingrid from Kona, Hawaii on the show with me today because she fascinates me. Ingrid is an ultra endurance athlete, low carb athlete, and really wanted to share her story. I always like to know people's why and what drives them, especially Ingrid will learn does really long, crazy stuff. And then how to fuel for those events, how to train, and we'll talk about how to match fueling with the training, as I keep talking about lately. And then, of course, recovery as we hit over 50, now that Ingrid just joined the 50-year-old club. And how do we do that as athletes that are aging and female athletes too? So Ingrid, thanks for coming on the show and sharing your time with us today.
Thank you, Debbie. I'm so excited to be here and happy you invited me to share some of my story. And yeah.
So we met at Lava Man a year ago in Kona, Hawaii. If anyone wants to do a really fun Olympic distance triathlon that's just more about fun and happiness and joy, you can do the Lava Man race next year. And Ingrid's in charge, or was in charge, I don't know if you still are, the race finish line. The best part of the day is when you cross the finish line. So I just fell in love with Ingrid right away. We just connected, and now my new good friend. And Ingrid, talk about what your kind of background is, how you got into endurance event and what events you are doing and have done. We'll just kind of go into that for a little bit.
Okay. Thanks. Well, I guess I'll start with once upon a time, I was a successful petroleum engineer in Texas. So I'm originally from Texas, and I was a high charging, motivated, driven professional. And I also, had a toxic relationship with alcohol. So for about 10 to 12 years of my life, I had this progression of that disease and was leaving behind a path of destruction in my personal relationships and a lot of times, but very successful at work. So I was one of those functioning alcoholics in the days. So it was, I was on that path until one day I decided that to continue drinking, I was going to hurt myself or kill somebody, and decided to quit. So I stopped drinking in 2001. And then I had to deal with life. And where I used to numb out using toxic substances, I had to start facing life head on. And that was really hard and painful. And I actually found that sugar was sometimes a great substitute for emotional regulation and support. So in times of loneliness, in times of stress, in times of worry, in times of celebration, I started using a lot of sugar. And that was okay until I got to kind of my early 30s and mid 30s. And then I started gaining a lot of weight. And so I also hadn't learned to deal with life. You know, I was still using the sugar for, from what I've learned now, for the dopamine hit that it gives me for the feel good feelings. And, you know, and at that time, I just thought it was just kind of normal-ish for, to just eat a lot of sugar, and
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't so unusual. But because I started gaining weight, I decided I needed to exercise. And so I come from a background of not being an exerciser. I don't have a gift for any really athletics, or I didn't. Growing up, I was like took the ballet, and I did some gymnastics, and I was in Girl Scouts, and then I was in band in high school so that I could avoid PE. I was in marching band, which counted as athletics credit. So I really didn't have a background in like, oh, I ran track all my life, or I swam all my life, or anything. And so when I decided to start exercising, I tried running a little bit because my father was a runner, but that did not feel good in my body. And it was through my work that they were organizing a charity bike ride. It was the MS 150. So it was a multiple sclerosis fundraiser, 150 miles from Houston to Austin. So I decided to buy a bike to train for this. So I come from like, no, basically no background. I mean, it is kind of like aligned with my, how I set goals for myself in life, and I go big, and I was like always trying to climb the corporate ladder and be the next and be the best, and all that. So yeah, it's kind of maybe not too unusual for me to have signed up for a 150-mile ride and buy a bike, having had no experience in cycling whatsoever, or even probably ridden a bike since I was 12 years old. But I did it, and I got the bike, and I really enjoyed the community. We did like, I guess they were like bi-weekly bike rides with a group of people. I loved the social aspect. And so that started to feel my need for some love, some support, some of the other, the feel good feelings that come from exercising. I started to experience that. And of course, now knowing that I have this addiction nature, you guys can probably understand how, you get a little taste. And then for me, I wanted more and more and more. So eventually I kind of crossed over into the triathlon world. After I did my first half Ironman, I decided for sure I wanted to do a full Ironman. And at the time I did a full Ironman, I had already heard about the Ultraman. So when I did my first Ironman in 2009, when I finished, I was like, I'm doing the Ultraman. And so then by 2010, I made it a goal that I would do the Ultraman World Championship in Hawaii by the time I turned 40. And so I had to just kind of follow the path of the qualifications that were required. So I needed to do a qualifying Ultraman before I did the World Championship Ultraman. So in that time, I ended up doing basically between 2009 and 2012, 7 Ironmans and 3 Ultramans. So the Ultramans, I did 1 in 2011 and 2 in 2012, like back to back, because I loved Ultraman Canada so much. I was like, okay, well, and that's my nature, is to like, again, try to go, push. What is the body capable of, and all of that. So
more is better.
Yeah, but not. but like, as at some point you learn that you can't continue that. And that so I was on this path until one day the work part of my life started to require and demand so much. I was working for a startup oil company. We were raising a lot of money to it basically, it just was overtaking my life. And so as that workload increased, my exercise decreased, but my sugar increased, right? And so then is when I started really having the health problems that I ended up with. And so I kind of had this breaking point of I couldn't even run 1 mile. It got to the point where I gained about 30 pounds and I couldn't run 1 mile, and I was embarrassed to go out in public because people knew me as this ultra athlete, and a 5K is just a warm up for you, or what, you're only 10K today, or only 100 miles on your bike. So I mean, it was embarrassing to me. And so I really withdrew. And the more I went inward and got into depression, the more sugar I ate. So it was work and eat, work and eat, work and eat. And it was an unhealthy relationship with sugar and with food. Whereas before, it was an unhealthy relationship with sugar, food, and exercise, but I didn't recognize it as that. But yeah, so, I've kind of continued to struggle even after overcoming that what happened was the doctors told me you're middle age, you just can't do the things you used to be able to do. You need to take steroids and hydroxychloroquine to manage this borderline lupus inflammatory arthritis situation, probably for the rest of your life. And so then that also led to more depression and sadness, like feeling the loss of this kind of sport that I loved. So that went on until one day I decided, and I really don't know what flipped the switch on this, but I was like, this is not acceptable. I need to do something. There's got to be a way to heal myself. And that's when I started looking into using food to heal the body and let food be thy medicine, and learning more about the super healing powers of superfoods, and was really life changing. I attended a workshop and listened to a young man speak about, at that time, the beneficial benefits of certain mushrooms, of certain oils and plants, of course, all of the foods that we eat, and just started getting fascinated with healing the body that way. And so I studied integrative nutrition, and became a holistic health coach back in 2015. And then I decided, okay, my life is out of control with this work stuff. I've saved up money and I'm going to quit everything and sell everything and move to Hawaii. And my life is going to be amazing and perfect, and I'll never have a problem again because I'm going to live in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, my, personality and so many of the things that make me who I am follow me to Hawaii. And so it took some time here for everything to catch up with me. But again, then I got back into the cycle of eating and racing, and eating and racing, and like using racing to manage my weight, and piling on training for ultras to kind of escape life. Like if I'm just training all the time and eating, like if I'm just always focused on planning, training, recovering, then I'm not really present for the rest of life. I can kind of keep myself busy and away from people. And when I start putting myself out there into those situations with people, there's that discomfort for me that I had never learned to deal with. And finally, I guess it was a year and a half ago, I just decided I can't do this anymore. I did 3 more Ultramans. So now I've done 6 Ultraman distance events. I did, was in 2015, I did 2. In 2016, I did 1. So it was again just getting back into the same cycle, and I was like, this has to stop. It's not sustainable for my body, for my mind, for my spirit, and the sugar was just out of control. And so that my desperation point was, I just finally Googled sugar addiction, because all my life I had heard about people joking about, oh, I'm a sugar addict, or you read the articles about Oreos are as addictive as cocaine. There's a lot of news out there. And I just didn't take it seriously as an addiction until I Googled sugar addiction, and I found a recovery model that addresses getting off of sugar more like getting off of other toxic substances. It's an addiction recovery model where abstinence is the best way. Whereas all these years I had been trying to be normal, to just stop eating sugar. And I didn't realize potentially that maybe my brain was programmed differently, because I do have other patterns of addiction in my life, and that maybe abstinence, true abstinence, like what I had done before would string together like 30 days. I'll be good while I'm training for this race. Yeah. And then after I finish the race, I'll go back to enjoying all the things that I've abstained from while I'm training. So that was my previous pattern. And now I just know that having sugar for me is it's a very dangerous and slippery slope. And so I choose to not eat any refined sugar. And so I've chosen to pursue this path of being a low carb athlete and completely, retrain my body's energy management system on how to continue to go long without relying on sugar, powders, white substances. And for me, sugar and flour are combined because they both, they do affect our blood sugar in the same way, and also give us those pleasurable feelings in our brain. And now what I'm doing is I still do an Ironman from time to time. And in my 50s, you mentioned I turned 50. I raced the Ironman Cozumel this past November and raced faster than I had in my 30s. Definitely in the period of my 40s, like I was hours faster than that. So being in this lifestyle has allowed me to continue to pursue the sport that I enjoy in a way that is, even though I still am pretty extreme, but it's more balanced in my mindset. And it's not about racing to eat. It's more about racing because, I actually enjoy the science of it, the planning, the logistics, the training, and then the joy of the event. So I get a lot of pleasure from that. And like I said, it's not like now I have to sign up for a race to manage my weight because I've chosen to change my lifestyle. And now I feel very comfortable in both my relationship with food and with the sport, even though, like you said, I'm still doing really long stuff. So I'm training now for a 1200K bike ride called Paris-Brest Paris, which is in August. And I qualified for a starting position by doing a 600K. And these have time limits. So the 600K had a 40-hour time limit, and the 1200K is going to have a 90-hour time limit. So this is a type of riding where I'm riding through day and night, limiting sleep, and just trying to ride as long and far as I can and sustain my energy and get it done. And so what I have coming up is I have a couple of events that are continuing to keep me on the path of qualification. So I have a 600K and a 400K coming up on back-to-back weekends, April 22nd and April 29th.
Yeah, that's like in 2 weeks from now.
Yes, I'm going to Texas on, I think, the 18th. Right. Yes.
Wow, time's gone by. So there's so much to unpack there, but just something I want to touch on, because the main focus we'll get into is how to fuel, train, and perform your best as an endurance athlete doing these long endurance and not get broken and burned out. Like, you had happened before and I had happened, similar story, but different, but the whole adrenal exhaustion, air quotes, gaining 30 pounds, not doing anything, feeling embarrassed and about what I look like. And, went from this, oh, what race are you doing next? Every day someone would ask me that too, gaining 30 pounds and looking like I just started eating buckets of cookies and chocolate cake and ice cream every day. And so, yeah, you get depressed when you don't feel that way, but it's more looking at what I find so fascinating with athletes and talking to them is, what's your why? Why are you doing these events? And as you have explored over the last, 20 years, that it's, what are you running from? Not running, what are you running to, but what are you running from? What are you not dealing with? And as you have explored the different addictions, and I've had many friends do this, two of them sadly are not with us anymore. And they are one alcoholic and other one just passed away sadly last year of, I think from lung cancer from chewing, but I remember he would just switch to addictions and went to, exercise training for triathlons. And the other person was marathons and triathlons and events, but it's really looking at what drives us, but making sure it's a healthy relationship and not just using it as another Band-Aid, but dealing with what are my emotions causing me to have this addiction to needing something to get that dopamine hit and then as you keep saying the word you choose to make changes in the way you showed up to life each day, how you approached how to fuel your body, not just fueling your brain or needing that addiction to get that dopamine hit. But, so much of it is choices, but you almost have to hit a type of rock bottom or something really to figure out, like, I need to do something now because no one else is going to do it for me. And you have to learn that, I think, the hard way, or else alternative is, not being here anymore. And so I think that's great. You've done that and have evolved that. You thought you could run away to Hawaii, and Kona's our healing, happy place, mine as well. And know that, that baggage, that trauma, those emotions stayed with me in my back here, that I didn't drop them off in the mainland, that they still are there. So learning that you have to deal with what's your why, what drives you, and make it into a healthy relationship. You have to deal with a lot of those emotions, I would think.
Yeah. And I'll just briefly revisit the quitting the sugar. So when I quit sugar, it's been a year and a half. I think in that first 3 months of healing, you go through the physical detox. I went through the physical detox. And so then I had to say, you know what? I cannot cannot ride 100 miles right now. I cannot run even 5K right now. Like there was a period of time, especially in those first 30 days, where I had to really learn to be with my emotions and be in a space of feeling feelings and learning to sit through them, which people always tell you to do. But if you don't maybe have a sugar addiction problem, you like hit the caffeine or hit a little sugar and just have a little dose of chocolate. And that works for some people. But for me, once I committed to get the sugar out of my system, I really had to go through like this physical and this emotional detox. And so going then from 30 to 60 days, and again, having taken a lot of exercise out of the equation and going back to, okay, I'm going to accept that my whole body's energy management system is changing and shifting right now. Mm-hmm. And so I cannot use exercise as the crutch I used to. So how am I going to navigate through these emotions? Okay, I'm going to start doing meditation. I'm going to start journaling. I'm going to have some therapy. I'm going to have some group support talks, like all those tools that begin to, or actually finding tools to put into an empty toolbox mm-hmm. of, once I took the alcohol out and the sugar and the exercise out, then how do I learn to deal with life? And so now, I think I do a much better job. I start every day with a meditation, some affirmations, positive thinking, intent, and all of that to set the stage for also focusing on, my goal today is to be my best, to be of service to others, to walk the path that the universe intends for me, and leave a lot of the things that I used to want to control up to the universe and God or my higher power to sort out, and always, especially in moments of worry, anxiety, go back to that focus on some things are I just can't control most things.
Yeah. That's insane.
But yeah, so,
that?
So the thing was, so then in that recovery process, then I'm like, okay, now I want to start exercising again. So how do I start fueling my body to feel good to do this now that I'm not going to use the powders and bars and even fruit? So I went all the way down to just having blueberries with breakfast. So I have pretty much gone off fruit as well, especially now. It depends on my training load, but yeah, I had to learn and build. And so I actually, have videos and documented my first half marathon sugar-free and my first century ride sugar-free, because those were big milestones for me to learn what to do, how to do it. And an important tool in that was something that you coach people on, which is test and not guess. And so really, I had a lot of fun with Keto Mojo and really learning about ketosis and then within that, as my distances got longer, learning how to use carbohydrates strategically to continue to fuel the fat burning, because you do need a little carbohydrate to keep the fat burning furnace going. So,
yeah. So true. So let's get into that. But before, I have to add in, I think it's important to all the lifestyle, like meditation and focus and mindset. I suggest that to all my clients, but you have to be ready for that. I know I have a client that I was working with that chooses to exercise to deal with things, but she still isn't dealing with her sugar addiction. And I would have her journal and, go deep into those emotions. But long story short, she shut me off. She wasn't ready to go there. But if you don't get to that point that you can face those emotions and what you're stuffing inside, and they get stuffed deeper and deeper down there, whatever trauma that was earlier in life or whatever toxic emotions you're holding on to, and you're trying to cover them up with your exercise. And then if you revert back to the sugar addiction, I just see it when people that struggle with that if you ask them to just sit and journal and just go for a walk and think about why that just happened. If you had if you started to binge on sugar and then you feel crappy, then you go try to out exercise that sugar addiction, I think you get in this hamster wheel you can't get out of until you get to a certain point, like you did, and explore those emotions. But I can't be the one to tell someone. I can suggest that, but it comes from with you. Don't you find that no one can tell you what to do but you?
Yeah. And I think, like, I guess I didn't complete this part, but getting clear of the physical detox starts to get your brain reset from always being in fight or flight. always seeking the dopamine hit. It starts to allow a place for some peace and serenity to come in, and for you to move from your reptilian brain thinking to the prefrontal cortex brain thinking.
Yeah.
And so it's when that shift comes that, for me, when that shift came, it started to be okay for me to accept my own shortcomings, to kind of go back to that, to be okay being human, to not always be seeking perfection, to not always, to learn to be more in the moment and present in the moment, and just kind of less of, I feel bad, I need to feel good. I feel bad, I need to feel good. Like that's kind of the old way. And now it's like, I feel bad, I'm curious about that. Let me explore that. What's going on? What do I really need? It's not food. But I think, like, just like you said, if you're not ready, and also if your brain continues to kind of be in that space of, and it could be like caffeine, and it can be, it could be a lot of things that kind of keep you in that place of just being unsettled. And I just think really getting clear of all the sugar, flour, wheat, processed food is just, it helps heal our brain. And then, like you said, you still have to be ready for it, but at least you might be able to start to be open to the possibility of allowing yourself to not be perfect. And once you do that, then love yourself enough to be willing to face the difficult traumas, things that are causing you to.
Yeah, I know I could talk about this forever, so I'll move on, but I'll just finish up the importance of the testing and not guessing, because this is what I find to help people figure out why you feel that way, is doing a GI test. Because if, like, I had someone with super elevated candida, and if you don't look at what's going on in your gut, you might have some clues to why are you craving. It's a result of eating high sugar and being stressed out. But it's, looking at, oh, look at what I'm doing to myself. If I could see what's going on in my microbiome, look at, is my H. pylori super elevated? So I'm not even breaking down my protein to get my amino acids to neurotransmitters. That's why it's fascinating to tie, the work on yourself, the mind, body, spirit stuff is so essential, because you can't do one without the other. I mean, you can, but it helps, I think, to get the functional lab testing to see, oh my gosh, this is part of what's happening for myself, and seeing the whole picture. But anyways, let's move on to training. So how do you train for these, 400, 200, 400, 600, 1200K bike rides, or even ultra Ironmans? Is there training by heart rate? How do you figure out, your fat oxidation rates? Talk a little bit about how do you train, and then we'll get into fueling with that and matching it all together.
Okay. So I love to try to just experiment on my own and do things on my own. So my old approach was a high volume training load, especially for getting ready for the Ironman Cozumel, or at least my mindset was more on high volume. And then I hired a coach. And so the coach is brilliant, Sevi Steinberg from Germany, and she's like an Ultraman world champion outright, won it over the men and women a few years back, and also a record holder in various ultra cycling 24-hour events, a team relay in the Race Across America. She was on a world record team. So I trust and believe in her approach, and so I learned more about, training with specificity and, going for quality over quantity, which I'm sure you coach your athletes as well. And so, focusing on specific parameters. For me personally, I mostly, with the bike, focus on power and VO2 max, and building my endurance and stamina, with very specific and dialed in workouts. And I find I was surprised for Ironman, the load that I had leading into the Ironman. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off, and I just had to trust and go with the flow on. I mean, I really had to trust that this was going to work. And it did. It worked brilliantly. Like I said, I was, fast as I was in my 30s. And so I was like, okay, there's something to this. And I continue to use that, kind of less is more in a lot of ways approach, if it's dialed in and specific and And I'm starting to learn what that looks like, although I still love having my coach to tell me what to do and to have that accountability there. But so, yeah, so like getting ready for the 600K, I think last week I rode on my bike about 4, 8, 12, I don't know, maybe 15 hours total in the week. So whereas before I would be like, okay, I need to go out and do a 10-hour ride on Saturday and a 10-hour ride on Sunday, because I'm going to be on my bike for 40 hours, And so I've found that that's actually not necessary. And it could be a function of just my whole evolution of being, where I am, in my fitness and my comfort on the bike because I do ride so much. But I'm finding that, I'm very confident that I'll be able to do the 600K, which is like 375 miles, without having ridden like back to back long days going into it, just keeping up my training volume as I've been doing it.
I think there's something to be said about that. Less is more, and more the minimal effective dose of workout, because we are, when I started training for Ironmans 2001, and before that, 1995, I started doing short sprint distance triathlons, and then gone to the long distance stuff because I felt good there, that it was doing a ton of volume, 20 hours a week of training. And then if I was to train for a race now, I would do, more 45-minute workouts during the week and specific intervals in that workout, and then the base training workout, and then one long one. So it's funny how, we learn as we get older. And then I think it's different how I train now compared to when I was 30 years old as a 50-year-old and a female athlete. I think there's so much more that we know now, as well as we can measure it with all these different toys of the biometrics, heart rate variability, and all these different devices. We can track what's actually going on inside if I'm recovered or not. So that is, good. And you're doing kind of heart rate training and watts, or just watts, and like your
heart rate as well.
Intervals?
Yeah. RPE on a rate of perceived exertion within those intervals oftentimes. So especially, I do still do cross training, so I have runs and swims to do also. And so those are definitely heart rate focused and rate of perceived exertion, which for me, I kind of know where my heart rate should be in that space. And the other thing I wanted to add on kind of the less is more, or, kind of the dialed in training, is I used to feel like I needed to overdo the distances to have the mental confidence to be able to pull it off. And so now, like, I was just trying to emphasize how much I trust this program that I'm working. I trust the coach, and now I trust the process. And now if I were to not have a coach, I would trust and believe that it is possible to go the distance without having to overdo the distance, just to have that mental confidence to be able to get it done.
But what if you were training for an Ironman? So of course, if you're doing a 400, 600 or 1200K bike ride, you're not going to train that distance, because who can by themselves, unless you have to just do other races to train that way, have that support. But if you're doing 100, 12-mile bike and a leg and a triathlon, Ironman, would you still do over the distance there, you think, nowadays?
I don't think I'd go over the distance. I seem to remember maybe having done only an 80 miler going into Cozumel, because at that time I had just come off of doing a 600K. So I did my 600K in August, and then or October, and then Cozumel was November. It was shortly after, and I was not even sure I was going to be recovered enough to do well. And the other part was the run. So since I don't run as much, I was actually doubting the plan. I never ran more than 12 miles going into Ironman in Cozumel. So my longest run was 12 miles. And she was like, well, just, you can count on the endurance that you've built in the bike, and you have the muscular integrity and the biomechanical foundation to support being able to run the marathon. You don't actually need to run a marathon before so I just and there's certainly opportunities to improve that, but I think, to answer your question, would I necessarily go over the distance for Ironman? For me, no, I wouldn't necessarily do it. I would save that for the day, put it all out there on the day.
Yeah, I think it's, learning how to trust the process and just know that you've built up, especially if you've been doing endurance events forever, that you have that foundation. And that's what's, I say, I did track workout last night, first time in a while with the group, San Diego Track Club. And I'm not good at speed work. That's my area of opportunity because I'm used to pacing myself to hold back, to go, 6-hour bike ride, 7 hours and be good with that, or run 3 hours. But to do all out in a bike sprint for, 30 seconds, 2 minutes in the pool, same thing, track workout. And I think if you've done endurance work for so long, you have that base. And what we almost need, especially as we age, I think, is being able to do pace work and speed work and going into that pain cave and know how to push yourself. Cause I struggle with that. It's like, how to get to go faster and put that in there. Cause we're used to doing the long, slow stuff.
Yeah. And I still have that. I had that last week where I actually wanted to cry and I might have let out a couple of little squeals during my bike workout, hitting a couple of the targets that I had. So, but that's like probably 10% or 5% of my workout is really that, that high,
Like twice a week. Do you have any pace work or?
Yeah, for sure.
And then how do you fit in? Do you do strength training since all this long distance is so catabolic? How do you balance that out as a aging athlete and getting in some strength training?
Well, my story.
Purple
I'm very, very blessed and grateful to be pretty much retired from a typical 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 kind of job. So I do have a lot of time in the day. I do health coaching full time, so I'm pretty flexible in my schedule there. So I find like yesterday I had an easy ride, 4-hour easy ride. And then I went to the gym. But I actually went to the gym for recovery. So I went to the gym for stretching and foam rolling. And I go to a gym that has the hydro massage and the red light therapy. So I used that as that day. And then, I'll probably, since I'm getting ready for the big event, I won't do as much strength training the next week, but I typically try to do strength training twice a week.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's probably hard to fit in, but are you doing kind of the Stacy Sims research of the 3 to 6 reps, heavy weights when you do stuff, strength?
It fits in with what I'm doing on my bike training. So when I'm not I was just in a VO2 max build mode. And so because my bike training was so intense, I went with more total body, body weight strength training sessions, focusing more there. And then after I finish this, and as I gear up for Paris, so this will be between May, June, July, I'll be able to get back into exactly what you said, which is more of the muscle building for us older, aging, mature athletes.
And that sounds like we're old, just to say aging athletes.
Or aging athletes.
Mature sounds like grandma.
Okay. But yeah, and I do follow a protocol of less reps, higher weight, and I often work out with a personal trainer to kind of get me started, to get me back so that I make sure that I'm safe in the weights that I'm choosing. And I actually do like progressive loading within the workout. So I may do something like 8 reps at one weight and then go up to a little bit higher weight and do 6, and then go up to a higher weight and just eke out 3 or 4 at the highest weight, and then allow a big recovery interval after that.
Well, when I'm there for Christmas for a few weeks, we can go to the Purple Gym and lift weights.
Sounds good. Sounds great.
How do you do fueling now? Let's talk about examples of fueling before. And, if you do any fasting, or do you time your fueling? Because this is what we keep talking about. I swear, like 2 years now, I've been talking about this subject, but it's ongoing, fasted or fed workout, timing your nutrients, going for a long bike ride first thing in the morning to an afternoon ride. How do you work on your nutrition as a low carb and athlete, but carb timing it all? And when do you place those carbs? Let's go into that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that I really, I enjoy experimenting with. And so I've tried a lot of things, and then also my coach, when you were talking about your fat oxidation rates and all of that, like I've done some testing with her that she suggests if I'm working at high intensity, I need to have 40 grams of carbohydrates an hour within those workouts. Whereas prior to having that testing done, I was adamant that I was only going to have like I'm going to use fat for fuel all the time.
Yeah.
So learning to switch that and
That's
learning
big.
that I can still be metabolically flexible, that I can be a fat burner in my daily life, and I can shift to being able to use sugar when I need it for those high intensity efforts. Like that's all been a learning process. And so where I am now is in my daily nutrition, my daily just regular food, as I very much, I would say, kind of like a keto green kind of space. I only eat protein and vegetables, mostly non-starchy vegetables and healthy fats. I do my best to not eat anything out of boxes, bags, or cans because most of those things contain some kind of sugar or sweetener. And for me, that's dangerous. So I like to just stay away from anything that has sweet tastes. So then that presents a little bit of a challenge when I start going to these long distance events where I do need to add some carbohydrates. And the first thing I did was to use whole real food. So I made my own little, that's my musubis. So I use sticky, just plain old sticky white rice. And then instead of slapping a piece of Spam and wrapping it in seaweed like we do here in Hawaii, I use some canned salmon and some olive, and I mix that with the sticky rice and wrap that in seaweed and have it in a little saran wrap. And I take those in my pocket. And I usually will have like one of those every 2 hours while I'm riding the long distance. And that's sustainable for something like a century, just to have water for my liquid and those foods at the level of intensity that I'm riding, kind of a moderate to low kind of heart rate for that long distance. Because again, these super long things that I'm doing, although they are timed events, they're not like races. And you don't get a finishing order or a placing order. There's nobody who's really first place. Like when we finish, we are sorted by our last name. So
do you get a big medal? Do they give you a medal?
No, no.
A ribbon?
We get registered in the great book of audacious cyclists or whatever it is. So yeah. So for a while I was good on just, I'm kind of into during the exercise part, and I didn't talk too much about before and the after, so I'll just do that quickly. But for my whole real foods while I'm exercising, the musubis, and then I also use the tiny baby boiled potatoes. So I find that when I'm on the road and traveling, I can get a bag of potatoes, I can cook them in a microwave at the hotel, I can roll them in some olive oil and salt, put them in a little baggie or keep them in my Camelback, and then I have that. And then I also used from you, I got some Paleo Valley beef sticks. So some of those type of things for additional fat, salt, sodium, that kind of thing. So, for depending on the duration of what I'm doing and the intensity, the heart rate, and the other conditions, I try to eat whole real food as much as possible. But when I go into these 300, 400, 600K, I do supplement I use S Fuels. So that's a product that I use, the Train Plus or the Race Plus, formula, which it's 15 grams of carbs in a serving, which is highly, I can't remember how they describe it. It's kind of a dextrose derivative, I believe, or a dextrin derivative, a high branch.
Yeah, I forget the name.
Something. Yeah. And then it also has fat from the MCT oil from coconut oil and protein as well. So that works well. And because I'm going so long, I supplement that with maltodextrin, and I use a completely unsweetened maltodextrin to get me up to that 30 to 40 carbs per hour when I need it. And so that's where I kind of cross the line into learning that I can go, I can do a century on whole real food, and I can do certain, to a certain level with just the S Fuels. But to really perform my optimum best, I started listening to my coach to add in additional carbs, especially for those, if you're going on 40 hours, and that's all you're doing is eating and drinking, stuff like that. I find for me that I do need, and I know that there's male athletes that can do all fat, and, different things work for different people, and we're all unique and bio-individual. So I'm just, talking about what works for me. And so, like I said, in my daily nutrition, when I'm not training hard, I eat just protein, vegetables, fat. But before a big race, I'll add like one serving of carbohydrates. For me, that's usually quinoa 2 days before my event, and 2 servings the day before my event. which is usually some brown rice and quinoa, and just a little bit of topping everything off and preparing, and then going into the event, prepared to do the strategy that I've then practiced.
Well, I think that's the important things. And that's what Dr. Dan Plews talks about in the Endure IQ program. And I've done a bunch of videos on this with slides, but just 3 days up to event. If you're a low carb athlete that's train low, race high, you add in, say you're staying around 100, 130 grams a day total carbs beforehand, and then you go a little bit higher each. So it's not really the carbo load as we used to back in the day, but just adding a little bit more strategic carbs 3 days leading up to the event, and then the evening meal beforehand. But adding in, like you said, potatoes, or when we were in Kona just now, we had the sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, and have that with butter. And I think it's important and I did this too, and that's why I keep talking about this, I think, fear of any carbs. And we get to be people that are new to keto, low carb athlete, being the fat adapted athlete and fasted exercise. We've taken it to the extreme. And I can tell you, I've started, this is back in, I was just writing this out, 2005, 2007, started doing more of the fasted workouts, the fat coffee in 2009. And you have to ask yourself, what's my goal? If your goal is performance, like you're talking about, or if it's fat loss, or, you're just trying to finish, it's going to vary. And I think it's not to be so strict and set in our ways that this is what I'm hearing on social media or podcasts and articles I read about. I have to do 0 carb and not eat anything, or just do ketones and just have, packet of MCT oil. But you have to do what you're saying is experiment, because it is, we say all the time, N equals 1, and figure out, I cannot eat for 3 hours, but am I going as fast? Am I hitting my numbers, my splits? And that's what I keep trying to talk about, because I did it too. I was like, I can go on and not eat till 4:00 in the afternoon, but do my workouts suck? And it's just, what's your why and what's the purpose of the workouts, and know when, if I'm going to do track workout or, a speed workout on the bike, or I'm trying to get the highest power watts, my FTP workout, then you have to strategically add in some carbs, and not all carbs are evil. And I think it's important conversation to continue having, because there's people coming into this area, this community all the time, and I hear them on our Facebook group page and see what they're saying. Like, oh yeah, I don't need anything. Oh, I can just eat water, an element in my water, and be fine. Eat water, drink water. But you know what I mean? It's such an experiment, like you're saying, your journey, it's ongoing, and you course correct and have to try this, and maybe you finally get sick of having your salmon stuff and want to switch it up. But you have to listen to your body and kind of be intuitive about it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, for me, there was not some confusion, but there was some pressure in my mind on myself to try to do everything on just fat, because there's some guys that are doing it. And it's not because there's guys, but they're the ones who are in the media doing it, like so-and-so can run 100 miles on just nuts, or whatever, or, and so for me, I had to kind of get over that and do what you said, which was, experiment based on, and learn that duration and intensity and heart rate, all those things, the level of effort affect like how my body's energy management system, just going back to that, and acknowledging that because I did the test and not guess with my ketones, learning that I can have carbohydrates while I'm exercising and come out of the session and still be in ketosis or get back into ketosis by the next day. For me, so that was a good learning. And another thing I didn't say about my daily nutrition is I focus on the protein macro. So even though I do I said keto green and eat mostly protein and vegetables, it's actually mostly protein, and always focusing on that for muscle recovery and repair, and maintenance and keeping our muscle. So I wanted to make sure I hit that as well.
No, I think that's important to remind people that it is strategic carb timing, but this is why I keep talking this too, of not fasting too much, because we know more and more, we hear more and more that we need those protein grams spread out throughout the day. You can't just have one meal and have 100 grams of protein. You need 30 to 50 grams spread out evenly 4 hours, through the day. But that's always my challenge is like, well, I'm not hungry. And you have to figure out how to get it in, if it's taking essential aminos or having a shake or bone broth. But, I've been trying to put on my Instagram this week. I found images on Pinterest of what does 30 grams of protein look like. So, you're not just doing tuna every day because then you're going to have high mercury. So mixing up, I'm having, if it's egg salad, or I'm having tuna fish, and then I'm having steak, and I'm having grass-fed burgers and salmon, but mixing it up, but figuring out how and where to put those in. So post-workout, rather than I can't eat a steak and then go swimming. So I have to time what I'm eating but make sure, as you're saying, hitting those protein macros, but figuring out where to put those in. Maybe post-workout is going to be easier to digest that big, heavier meal afterwards when you're ready to eat, and you can shift into that parasympathetic state than shoveling it in. But good point. So recovery, protein, but what other things do? You talk about going to the gym to help things out, but are you tracking heart rate variability to know your readiness? Are you doing any, recovery boots, or what do you do to help recover from all this long endurance stuff?
Well, I do. So I get massage, and so a good hour and a half massage is always in order immediately after these events when my body's pretty taxed, something gentle. But, even for maintenance and for recovery between hard workouts, I use massage. I don't have recovery boots of my own. I do have a massage gun, so I can work on some of my body. But I guess the key is actually to take some time off.
Active recovery in the ocean.
Yeah, just to do some easy, for certainly the salt water and cool water. I've tried cryotherapy and other things, but it's not something that I continue to really keep in the protocol. I do have compression tights and compression socks. So oftentimes when I'm doing these big races, I'm traveling for them, as I will be coming up for the next one. So, making sure that I keep the circulation, as I'm getting on a plane, a day and a half after a 40-hour effort, that's pretty important. And the foods, the hydration. Yeah, I guess I don't do anything super special. But it's just, I guess to me, it's kind of a normal recovery process. So take care of the food, take care of the, inside the body, the muscles, everything we can to clear out any of the toxic byproducts of the racing, lots of hydration.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I think it's always kind of experimenting. You're in a unique space that doing that much volume, but I'm sure, do you see other people when you do these events just piling in gels and sugar bars and flour? I see that just at races in general, but your ultras what else are normal people eating?
Well, so it's interesting. These, the randonneuring is the style of riding that I'm doing, which is solo self-supported riding. And some of the events, we don't have timing chips, and they keep track of us we must stop at certain control points. And often the control points are gas stations. And so I get to see what everybody buys. So we sometimes have to actually buy a product to get a receipt, which acts as our timestamp of having passed through the control point. And so, I'm like, I buy, a bag of mixed nuts, or, a pack of gum, which I don't even chew gum, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to buy a pack of gum, something, or a bottle of water, but I usually carry enough water, but sometimes I buy water. But to see what people are buying. So everybody's, getting the Payday candy bar, the Dr. Pepper, the Monsters, the sugary stuff. And then, after you've been at it for a while, or after we've been at it for a while, it's the hot, greasy food at those convenience stores becomes attractive, the food that's like going around on the rollers, the hot dogs that have been there for 20 hours or whatever. So to see the guys loading up on that is, it's what works for them, and their gut is trained for that. And I'm like, boy, if I ate that stuff, I would not be able to get back on my bike for a minute, or an hour down the road, I'd be off my bike for a while.
So here's a good question though. Do you see people, are they lean? Because if you think of the theory that calories in, calories out, I was just saying this with Ironmans, I didn't lose any weight after a while because my body was so used to that distance and going long. It wasn't a weight loss method. So do you see people that do these ultra long rides and they're still kind of heavy set?
I do. I mean,
without
it's
naming
a
names.
mix. I think that it is definitely, there's definitely a mix because we have some people that are fast and are focused and they may be eating the junk, but they're fast and lean. And then there are people that are out there too. I'm going to take the whole 40 hours and I'm going to enjoy myself and eat ice cream all along the way. And it kind of shows, and that's okay too. It works.
Well, yeah, no judgment. It's okay. But I just find it just proves that you can't out exercise a bad diet and you can't out supplement poor lifestyle habits. You have to do what I call the holistic method, right? So you have to take care of the whole of you. If you're not prioritizing your sleep and your recovery foods and getting nutrient dense whole foods to help give you all those nutrients your body needs you're asking so much of your body. So why don't we put good stuff in to get good results out for your performance gains? But
absolutely,
it's a choice again. Come back to where we started, the choices we make.
And actually, when you talk about nutrients, that reminded me, I do take a few supplements like daily. So I use spirulina daily. I use bioactin, which is Hawaii red seaweed, daily for like joint support, skin support. Mm-hmm. I use CoQ10 daily for mitochondrial support. I have a combination of certain vitamins, extra vitamin D, C, and B to support energy production. So I do have kind of my regimen of additional supplements to help, because I mean, I do eat a healthy diet, but there are foods that I'm not eating. Yeah. And I am putting my body through a significant amount of stress. And I think that, maintaining those protocol, that protocol through the recovery is super important as well.
Mm-hmm. And I know we're going to run out of time, but what about ketones? Are you doing the HVMN ketone and Q shot we were testing out here when you were visiting?
I know I haven't used it since then, but I heard that they're now available at Sprouts.
Yes.
And so I don't have Sprouts here, but my mom has Sprouts in Texas. So I fully intend to take some shots with me because for the 600K, I was curious and I talked to you about this. Will it help me at night with the focus, with the energy, and all of that, like just to see, because when I experimented with the one you gave me, I felt amazing. And it was like, just like euphoric, like happy. And of course I was in San Diego and there's a lot of other reasons why that could be, but I was just in a really happy place. And so I have that on my to-do list, is to experiment with that during my night riding. And because it'll be easily available, hopefully, to get. I need to actually put that on my to-do list to tell mom to go check that out before I get there.
They just launched it. I saw that. So I know when I get the Pinoy, which will be here next week, so I'll start testing and experimenting and then put you on it in the December when I'm in Kona.
Yes.
But what I'm excited, I told Lat from HVMN, once I get this, I want to start, following the protocols the Pinoy has of not eating 5 hours before. Then I'm so excited to kind of experiment, biohack the testing. So if you have a shot of ketonic IQ before your workout or during, what we can experiment. And then, all right, you're supposed to do these tests, metabolic tests fasted, but what if we want to know what your typical pre-workout or pre-race fuel is? What happens to you during your exercise? So I kind of want to start taking the basic one, but let's kind of go
layering
off of that and just experiment. But I think doing the ketones and see what happens with your performance and the fat oxidation rates, and then what we can do if it's FASPA or something else, and just trying to think, like, how can we move up that metabolic crossover point with how we fuel, and see any changes with that versus a pure fasted workout or coffee. So it becomes fun. So thank you so much, Ingrid. Where can people follow you? Social media or your website? Where do you want to send people to learn more about your adventures?
I'm the best at posting about my races on my regular Facebook page, which is just Ingrid Hillhouse on Facebook. Easy enough. I also have an Instagram account, Ingrid Hillhouse Health. So you can follow me on Instagram, and I can sometimes I'm good at getting my story on Instagram as well. And then I have a web page. It's Ultra Health House, like Hill House, but Ultra Health House, .com. So, I think if anybody's interested in following the 600 and 400, this is kind of a big deal for me to do 1,000K in 1 week on back-to-back weekends.
Wouldn't it be for anybody?
I'm pretty excited to share the adventure, no matter how it turns out, and just see what happens, and take anybody who wants to follow, take you guys along for a ride.
Well, you do your little video clips along the way, so it's kind of fun. I never go to Facebook very much, so I will have to log in there so I can see little video clips.
I'm going to make an effort to get it on Instagram because I know more people are kind of going that way. So
here's the secret. You post on Instagram and you forward it to your Facebook page. That's what I do.
Right,
so you don't have to go too many places. Less is more, remember, my mantra.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Ingrid. Good luck with your adventures.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I enjoyed it, and you're amazing. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to come on your podcast today.
Good.
Thanks for listening to the Low Carb Athlete Podcast. If you have any questions, feedback, or topic suggestions, let us know on Facebook or at debbiepotts.net. You can help us to continue to grow by leaving a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.